Joining me now is Sky News contributor Louise Roberts and the Daily Express royal reporter Pandora Forsyth, still on holiday in Spain. Pandora, how significant are these comments?
Yeah, well, look, you can't rewrite history. And as much as Harry and Meghan have liked to say that they've moved on and they've got these fabulous businesses now and books and all the rest of it, the public hasn't moved on. And ultimately, as much as they want to have their own life, they need the public on side, don't they? Because they need them to buy the products, they need them to buy their books, they need them to watch their Netflix series and all the rest of it. So ultimately, yes, they would just put this down as gossip, and obviously they might even deny some of these gossip columns and clips that you've just shown. However, it is still being put into the public domain. And should they ever wish to come back to the UK at some point, which I do kind of think personally, I don't think will happen. But if they ever did, then they do need the public on side. And obviously this is being very much put into the public domain on national media. So yeah, it's not great. And to be honest with you, do I ever see it sort of calming down with Harry and Meghan? No. I think there'll be lots of other clips and royal biographers and commentators like myself who will have their opinion on Harry and Meghan, and ultimately that does feed into the public opinion. So yeah, they're going to have to do a bit of work, I think, to kind of move on from the past and perhaps take some accountability for what has happened, which I don't think, in my personal opinion, they have taken accountability for what happened in the past, which is why they keep on being pushed back into the public domain, perhaps in a way that they don't want to be perceived by the public, with these negative commentaries about both of them individually and together.
And Louise, why is this all happening now? What does this give us insight-wise into where this is all heading? Was there any particular snippet there you found informative?
I was fascinated by this. I mean, it's gotten to the domain now 5 years after Lady Anson's death because, of course, it's been published on Sally's blog, and Sally's a very well-respected biographer in the UK, and of course, as Phil Dampier said, it's come straight from the horse's mouth because Lady Anson had that sort of relationship with the late Queen and spoke to her every day. And I also found it interesting because it's the first sort of pushback or challenge of Harry's narrative that he had this special bond with his grandmother in this way. But clearly, if he's having arguments with her and Meghan is refusing to show her wedding dress, I mean, goodness me, you're marrying into the royal family. The one person you show your dress to is the Queen to get her approval. And I also thought it was interesting that it also shows a new light on those very famous photographs of Meghan floating up the aisle and the way the Queen looks at her, because clearly that was the first time she'd seen that dress, which is just so rude and so ignorant of Meghan to go down that path. But yeah, look, it's blockbuster information for me because it's so true and it just reflects, as Phil said, what we suspect of Meghan and Harry.
Now, still on Meghan, Pandora, more drama this week over Meghan's jam. I never thought I'd be speaking about preserves and jam and whatever so much on this show, but what's happened?
Caro, I have to interrupt you there. It's apparently not even a jam, it's a spread, because the amount of percentage of which is mad. But there you go. There's something to add into that. Look, as ever is Meghan's baby. She is very much trying to become this businesswoman / influencer online, going back to her roots. But as ever with these things, pardon the pun, if something's new, then it's going to have a couple of trip-ups along the way. But when it's Meghan, it gets magnified, doesn't it? Because ultimately this should not be happening when she has got the best people around her, and they really need to be thinking a little harder about this in terms of basic stock levels. I mean, if you're going to run a business, then you need to think about stock levels, right? Surely that is just a basic 101. But as I brought up previously in programmes, I don't know the stock level capacity, and this is all well and good when you have we've sold out within an hour, but actually when you've sold out within an hour because you perhaps maybe have low stock levels, but you want to come across like you've sold out within an hour. But you're actually annoying customers at the same time because they're going through to the shipping, paying for it, and then getting an email afterwards saying, actually, I know you've paid for it, but you're not going to get the product that you've paid for, and you're going to have to wait until we've got it back in stock, and then we're going to send it out to you. And you'll also get a refund. Fine. But it's not a great look, and it's probably not the headlines or what Meghan wants in terms of coverage for as ever. So no, not very impressive. And if you did want perhaps not spread jam, you could buy a bottle of Meghans wine for $30 plus $20 shipping fee if you so fancied. So you can sort of judge where that kind of comes down into your purse pockets at the moment with everyone being stretched.
And Louise, also some scuttlebutt this week over whether Dolly Parton snubbed an invite from Meghan to join her show. Do we know what happened here?
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because Dolly has sort of connections with the British royal family. She's met several of them and has been quite public about her praise for Camilla. I think she's even said recently she wants to meet with her for afternoon tea in October in the UK. And Dolly hasn't got to where she is in country music and indeed in modern entertainment without being able to read a room correctly. And what we're told is that Netflix asked her to go onto Meghan's show as ever, and she declined because of brand and reputation damage she could foresee by associating herself with Meghan. It would affect her quotient rating, which is what they call the Q rating in the US, which is sort of your rating with brands and the public, and you don't do anything to affect that rating because it will impact what shows you get cast for and how well your records sell, etc., etc. And of course, Dolly is an absolute master at this. Now, the story by Kinsey Schofield, of course, was run in Page 6, and Netflix have said there was never any discussion with Dolly directly, but I'm not so sure about that. I think that she's the sort of person that Meghan would love to have on the show.
Be very interesting to see what actually happened there. And still on Page 6, still with you, Louise, a report this week that the Sussexes are cutting back on staff. What's the update there?
Well, the update is that due to cash concerns, although despite the fact that they live in this huge mansion and they got a big wad of cash from, Spotify and Netflix and everything else, apparently they're having to count the pennies, and they've got rid of their comms team, which is just insane, isn't it? You think they would go first for the edible flower arranger. I mean, surely that person's role is sort of limited to an extent, whereas their comms person, I would say, is rather critical. So they've been dispatched. Apparently another 6 staff were dispatched as also last month, and this takes the total, according to Sarah Nathan's story in Page 6, to 25 staff who once worked for the Sussexes and no longer do.
Going through them like knickers. Now, Pandora, you're still on holidays, but Wimbledon is going on in London. The photos from Wimbledon have been delightful as always. Who's made an appearance so far?
Yeah, I might be on holidays, but I'm with my mother who absolutely loves Wimbledon. Actually, I used to work at Wimbledon about 10 years ago as a waitress, so it is very much a personal thing for me, ladies. Anyway, I digress. Let's speak about who's in the Royal Box this week. So we had Fergie in the Royal Box. The first time in years Fergie was in the Royal Box, so a really proud moment, I'm sure, for her. And she was, of course, alongside her daughter there too. And she looked like she was having a great time. She was talking to absolutely everybody in the Royal Box. It seemed that she was there with Princess Beatrice, of course. And then we had Lady Gabriella Windsor and a couple of other minor royals, not senior royals, stepping in. But what is interesting is not everybody is going into the Royal Box this year. You'll have a couple of minor royals who are actually going, but they're not within the Royal Box, but they have been pictured. Whether that is by choice because they want to be there on a personal note, or whether that is just because of the fact they haven't had the invite extended out to them, then we shall see. But the second week obviously has more of the big showstopper names and the finals. So do expect to see a few senior royals this week is all I would say, and keep an eye on the finals weekend because I'm sure you will see a couple of big names there, and who we're all really wanting to see would of course be Catherine, and she wouldn't miss it if she can try, so take that as you will.
We will be watching. Thank you so much, Pandora, Forsyth and Louise Roberts.